When Rwanda was invaded by white colonialists, peace, harmony and cohabitation were some of her characteristics. Sadly, social classes known as Hutu, Tutsi and Twa were turned ugly by tactics to conquer such as divide and rule. To worsen the situation, small-scale killings took place, mostly targeting the now labeled Tutsi ethnic society rather than the Tutsi social class. In the year 1962, Rwanda got its independence from Belgians who left behind a ticking bomb, as evidenced by the killings that followed immediately a year later in 1963, then also in 1973, still targeting the Tutsi community, this time causing a large number of them to flee in neighboring countries. Like the saying goes, East-West, home is always best. Despite wanting to come back to the motherland, they were denied the right to do so. Hatred messages like Rwanda is an already fully filled glass, any more input would cause it to spill, foreshadowed the catastrophe of the 1994 genocide when Tutsi were brutally massacred alongside moderate Hutus. Rwandans with their limited resources put the killings to a halt. Rwandans reconstructed their country and themselves through reconciliation and gave themselves a vision for a better future. Rwandans made it possible. My country, under the leadership of President Paul Kagame, has made enormously remarkable progress. Even the people behind the recent controversial BBC documentary, Rwanda's Untold Story, Jane Corbin and Associates, definitely agree. Luc Machar, who was in charge of a group of international peacekeepers, Belgians to be specific, failed his responsibilities and now has the audacity to accuse the leadership under which Rwanda has recovered from the consequences of the colonial rule.
I think it was racist. It is based on perceptions of Africans and of Africa, and it is trying to tell a story about Africa. For example, I think the most important one is that Africans are violent, naturally violent, and that even when they are quiet, there's something bubbling under the surface and it could explode any time and we can never know when. And so the documentary is trying to say nothing has been resolved in Rwanda, the problems are still there, even if the country is peaceful and the country is developing, that doesn't matter because the violence is bubbling under the surface and it is waiting to explode. So that is what the journalist Jane Corbin is trying to push. That's the agenda she's trying to push. And she says a lot of things that are just not accurate, historically accurate. The other thing that comes from that documentary is that Africans have no moral authority to judge the way the West or the international community behaves. I think the reason why the West is so uncomfortable about Rwanda is because the West did not do anything. And in fact, when you look at countries like France, they participated in the genocide. So there's always a discomfort in the Western world about what to do with Rwanda. They feel that Rwanda has a very high moral authority that it does not deserve. And in fact, one of the scholars, I think he's from Belgium, that's what he said. He said that Kagame has a very high moral authority that he does not deserve. So this is just about bringing down Rwanda's moral authority in the international community, and so they want to do that by tarnishing Kagame's name. And then the third thing that is wrong with that documentary is to equate the genocide with Kagame's leadership. Those are two separate things. If people have a problem with Kagame, they should take it up with him on a political platform. But to bring in the genocide and to start disputing the statistics, the experiences, that is just plain wrong. Just because you want to settle a score with Kagame, that is so wrong. Kagame's leadership is a separate issue from the genocide. The genocide should be treated as something, a crime against humanity that happened to 1 million Rwandans and that traumatized the rest of the country, whatever side they were on. So to bring in the genocide just because somebody doesn't like Kagame's guts, that's just not right. And in fact, I think this has been pointed out by the victims, that the documentary hardly talks about the people who suffered in the genocide. It doesn't talk about the people who lost their families, who were tortured, who are still traumatized by the memories of what happened. It does not interview any victims. It only interviews the victims who ran away to Congo because the government told them to run away. So that's unbalanced, and I think there can be no accurate history of the genocide unless you talk to the victims, unless you remember who the victims were and what their families went through. You can never really know you can never have an accurate picture of the genocide, and that goes to just show the lack of value that this documentary has for African lives, and which was actually the problem of the genocide in the first place, because when people were dying, the international community didn't think that Rwanda was important enough to intervene. And so it is just plain disregard for African life, and that is why every African should be concerned about this documentary.
Rwanda, we have hope. Hope that has come through forgiveness and togetherness. 20 years ago, the world stood by as innocent men and women and children were mercilessly killed. But we have been redeemed. Where cries of pain and sorrow and despair once were, today it's shouts of joy and victory. Where hate was, love prevails. Where divisionism and segregation were, today we are united through reconciliation. For God is for us, and no one can be against us. Not any nation that wants to step on us, not the BBC's untold story, not anyone can come between us. For we know where we are going, and we are going to walk until we reach there.
I will never understand how a stranger will come and define my history. We are responsible for our own history. Rwanda is a nation with a clear vision. So instead of taking us backwards, you better watch us from a distance. I believe that our togetherness will never fail us.
Just one thing that is important to note also is that it talks about ethnic conflict. The genocide was not an ethnic conflict. Hutus and Tutsis are not ethnic groups. They are social groups of the same Rwandan community. They believe in the same God, Imana, they speak the same language, Kinyarwanda, so they are not two ethnic groups. They are two social groups that went through some upheaval during colonialism, and then that was used to set them against each other. But finally, let me just say that the genocide, the official narrative of the genocide, as far as I know, from the few times I've been to Rwanda, it is not that Hutus killed Tutsis. It is that a genocide was organized by members of a government who were supposed to protect citizens, but instead turned against them. That's what the genocide was. It wasn't about a tribe against another, and tribe doesn't even apply here. It was about a government that organized a mass slaughter of citizens by labeling them a certain name. That's what the genocide was. It was not ethnic conflict. And it's very dangerous that BBC has decided to have this documentary that misinforms not just the international community outside Africa, but even us Africans. I'm not sure that many Africans know the subtle distinctions that are very important to know if you're to understand Rwanda's history.
Rwanda is a country that has come from far, and as our leaders continuously remind us, we still have far to go. We as the youth believe that we can achieve everything that is in store for us if we work hard, maintain the self-worth mentality, and most importantly, stay united. The unity concept in relation to our country is very important, for it has been developed for approximately 20 years now. It is a very strong bond. It is something that ensures that we cannot be shaken as a nation and a people. No matter who or what broadcast channel puts up false facts about our history, which, if I may say, only a fellow Rwandan or one with good intentions towards our country's future can fully comprehend. But despite that, we cannot be shaken because we stand firm in the truth. Because once you know the truth shall set you free. And us as a people know where we have come from and we know where we are going.
Our country went through a lot. We don't want to go back where we were. We don't want people who come and redefine our history.
We are reaching out to fellow Rwandans in different corners of the world with a message of unity with fellow man, more so the young generation. In order to see a Rwandan united and prosperous society, we need the youth to come up and take leadership. Be better leaders in the present and the future to come. All that begins with individual change. Let us be the change we want to see in others. A life is not significant unless for the impact on other lives.
Ndi muto ariko sindi gito cyo kutamenya amateka yanjye. Sinaje guhindura yawe sinyenewe vishanga ngo amindura yanjye.
We are open to peace, to love, to unity, to hard work that will lead to our country's prosperity. Our generation is the future, and together we shall make the future bright.
Studying outside my home country has made me love it more due to the appreciation from my schoolmates, and nothing will stop me from making Rwanda a dream country for the next generation.
En tant que nation, nous avons une vision, la vision 2020. Nous aspirons à reconstruire un pays démocratique, uni, où les Rwandais seront éduqués, en meilleure santé, et notre pays va prospérer. Aujourd'hui, selon la Banque mondiale, le Rwanda est classé parmi les pays stables et 3e pays de l'Afrique subsaharienne où on peut mieux faire du business.
Alors, à ce stade, nous n'avons plus besoin de personnes qui vont nous aider à réaliser cette vision noble, plutôt que de personnes qui essaient de déstabiliser ce que nous avons passé des décennies à reconstruire.